Hello again, sweet darlings. If you're new here, then welcome. I'm Elizabeth, a homemaker, mama, and wife living in the English countryside. Only a few years ago, I was a feminist, bent on being in control. But I've slowly found my way to a more feminine approach to motherhood and my marriage, which has blessed me and those I love immensely. I share weekly videos here all about femininity, faith, and homemaking tips, so if you like this video, then please consider subscribing. Without further ado though, let's jump into this video and explore why my husband and I have chosen to follow traditional gender roles and what this looks like in our marriage. Everywhere you look today, people have an opinion about gender and how these characteristics impact the dynamics between men and women. Generally speaking though, in a society where we can't even define what a woman is anymore, women and men are being pushed towards abandoning their instincts and their natures in favor of becoming some weird androgynous beings who are stressed, depressed, and working really hard. For what exactly? But those of us who embrace traditional gender roles are branded as oppressed, misguided, and our men as abusers, sexists, or misogynists. If you're coming to this video with any of these assumptions about the men or women who live a traditional lifestyle, please do stick around so I can explain why these views are so misguided. Before explaining why traditional gender roles are so great in my opinion, please let me explain why we chose to follow them first. We actually made this decision long before we found faith or the Catholic Church, but we realized that these roles just made sense. There was too much conflict in a home where anyone could take charge of the domestic chores, but ultimately only my husband was going to fix the car or chop the firewood, for example. And yes, some feminists will argue that I could do those things, but I didn't want to. I wanted to learn to cook nourishing food, make my home cozy, and spend my days chasing little people around a garden that I have grown. Simple pleasures. In a world that prioritizes material success, the wealth that comes from having a traditional dynamic isn't really celebrated anymore. But as soon as we decided who would do what, who was the head of the household, and defined our expectations of one another, we finally had a structure to move forward and start growing. We managed to master elements of our respective roles, and others we're still working on. But we do have an agreement about who does what, how we communicate, and this reduces day-to-day tensions or disagreements. Beyond this, by becoming a more feminine wife, I have seen my husband become a more masculine man. This modern notion of toxic masculinity is really ridiculous, and I'm not the only woman who'll tell you that having a man who leads your household gives you an incredible sense of security and of being cherished. My husband gets up and works hard regardless of the weather or his health, so that I can stay inside to bake, nap, sew, or knit. All of this is to say we haven't regretted following traditional roles, and I'm excited to see how this dynamic between us continues to bless our marriage. Before we decided to follow this path, we were both working, and we thought that we wanted a relationship where we both got to have weekends away with our friends, where we chased material success and traveled the world together. We did travel a bit before we had children, but my favorite memories were made in this very house, the place where both of our daughters were born. I do love some of our things and gifts that we've received over the years, but I'm so grateful to have reached a stage in my life where I'd give it all up if I had to, just so that we could be together as a family. And COVID made me realize that I do want to spend all day every day together, and I haven't gotten tired of it yet. So maybe this is all starting to sound really good to you, but you want to know, how do we define these roles, and what does it practically look like on a day-to-day basis in our marriage? As a wife, I handle the cooking, cleaning, and running of the household. That means I take care of laundry, mending, making things pretty, meal planning, daily care of our daughters and dogs, and I'm a helpmate to my husband. This means I can take on admin tasks, creative tasks, or anything else that he needs help with or input with. This looks different for everyone, but I'm enjoying helping him with some decorating projects at the moment and new business ideas too. For my husband, embracing his role means he guides our family and takes charge of a lot of the big decisions. He consults me, but ultimately he has to make the tough choices and be the one that makes certain goals a reality. He does all of the manual work around the house, the dirty jobs, and is always looking for ways to improve our life every day. He works so hard for our family, often late into the night, and I'm so grateful that he feels able and willing to do this. We're both working on becoming more masculine or feminine, respectively, in a biblical sense, and we're still learning all of the time about what we both need and how to bring out the best in one another. It's taken my husband and I many years to get to where we are now, being on the same page about what these traditional gender roles might look like, and figuring out for ourselves how to master each of those domains. So try to be patient with yourselves, and consider a few small ways that you might start to embrace these roles in your marriage. I'll share a few with you now as suggestions, which I've tried and have worked well for us as small steps towards a more traditional dynamic in our marriage. The first is to consider wearing dresses or skirts only, even if you just try this for a week or a month. See what a difference it makes to how you feel, how your husband interacts with you, and how you feel while doing domestic chores too. The second is to discuss with your husband what goes into each of your respective baskets. This is what we called it when we started to group our chores together and discuss what was in each person's basket. How are the tasks currently divided? Is it fair? Is it actually working well? And how might it be improved? Another way you could start to embrace a more traditional dynamic is taking ownership of something domestic. If you're currently sharing these chores with your husband, take something onto yourself fully. You'll master it sooner, and it also frees up your husband to do other important things for your family, which is something that you might like to discuss together. Perhaps one of the most powerful ways to make a big change in your marriage is to try and be positive and joyful at home, especially when your husband comes back from work. Regardless of whether you're both working or not, no man likes to come home to a nagging wife. Greeting him with a smile, a kiss, and a thank you for working hard will surely let him know he's appreciated, the hard work was worth it, and he'll want to do even more to please you. Society wants us to believe that traditional roles are restrictive, but in our marriage we found them to be incredibly freeing. We're now both the masters of our own domains, and we're getting really good at the skills we need to do this. Those skills in turn are bringing so many good things to our marriage and our family, and we don't waste time anymore arguing over the dishes, the kids, or whose turn it is to take out the trash. I hope this video gives you a little insight into life as a traditional wife, and that it inspires you to discuss this with your husband or try something new in your marriage dynamic if you haven't already. I hope to see you all here again soon for the next one, but in the meantime, take good care everyone, and God bless.